Her first? All right. Hers is longer. I thought. Okay.
Of course it is.
Mine shorter.
Of course it is.
No, that's a good one. All right. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake was sworn in as Baltimore's 49th mayor on February 4th, 2010. November 2011, she was elected to her first full term, receiving 87% of the vote. That's not a number you often see in the general election. She holds a top leadership position in the Democratic National Committee and is vice president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. In Baltimore, one of her areas of focus is growing the city's population. The goal is 10,000 families over the next decade, which she and her team believe can be accomplished by improving public safety and education and strengthening city neighborhoods. As a roadmap on how to get there, last year the mayor unveiled Change to Grow, a 10-year financial plan for Baltimore, the city's first long-range financial plan. It seeks to eliminate structural budget deficits while bolstering neighborhood infrastructure projects, demolishing 4,000 vacant homes, and reducing homeowner property taxes. She served as city council president from January 2007 to February 2010. She was first elected to the city council in 1995 at age 25, the youngest ever in that city. She also serves as an attorney. She served as an attorney in the Public Defender's Office, attended law school at the University of Maryland after majoring in political science at Oberlin College. Mayor Nutter, recently re-elected to his second term as mayor of his hometown. Michael Nutter has set an aggressive agenda for America's fifth largest city. That agenda includes devising innovative public school reform strategies, strengthening community policing, and continuing to implement the Greenworks Philadelphia initiative, with the stated goal of making Philly the greenest city in America. In July, Politico magazine profiled him under a headline, "I dare say no previous Philadelphia chief executive ever had to worry about. Can a mayor be too honest?" Since taking office in January 2008, Mayor Nutter has maintained core services while reducing the city's spending. Born in Philadelphia, he attended the Wharton School at Penn, served 15 years on the city council. There, he helped push through various good government reforms, including tightened campaign finance requirements, anti-pay-to-play legislation, and creation of an ethics board. No small tasks, wrote Politico in that article, in a town that Lincoln Steffens, the great muckraker, at the turn of the 20th century called corrupt and contented. So let's start. My first question, Madam Mayor, is for you. Martin O'Malley, your predecessor once removed, calls himself a performance-driven progressive. He's in London this week describing CityStat, the results-based accountability approach he developed. Two questions for you. First of all, would you consider yourself a performance-driven progressive? And secondly, you're using CityStat. Can you describe to us how it works?
So first, performance-driven progressive, I don't know, I'm not a fan of all the boxes. So, do I believe in data-driven results and outcomes? Yes. I don't know what labeling myself a progressive on top of that gets me. If it's a good thing, I'll say yes. If it syncs up with what I've done, I do consider, like Mayor Nutter, Baltimore to be a city that is driven to innovate, because I believe very firmly that that's where the innovation is done. Secretary Castro's brother could probably lament that not much is being done in Congress, but in cities, we don't have the option of saying, we're going to debate this incessantly. You have to pick up the trash. You have to make sure that the police officers show up when somebody calls 911. We have to do the things that keep the city going, and we can't fall back on political rhetoric. So, we are getting things done. I believe in innovation. I believe in focusing on outcomes. I continued CityStat in Baltimore because I believe very firmly that you can do what you're saying you're doing, but it's like trust and verify, right? I'm trusting that my people are doing what they're supposed to be, but we're verifying it, and we're pushing for progress. And that's one of the things that I'm working on with CityStat, is to create an ability to really drive the performance that our citizens want to see. It's one thing to say we were able to, pick up the trash 20 20 minutes quicker than we did this time last year. You know, we were able to extend the route, or the pothole got filled in, 24 hours and not 30. Those are nice things, but what does that matter to, or how does that matter to the citizen? And that's the work that I'm trying to do with CityStat, to make it a management tool that we could drive for the results that our citizens want to see.
Mayor, you use a similar thing. You also, both of you use outcome budgeting.
Yes.
Describe that.
Outcome-based budget, well, the first thing I want to say is, one, thanks for the opportunity to be here. And, it's a quite unique situation that this may be the only place where there is real clear politics in Washington, D.C. So I'm just excited to be able to, have that kind of conversation with anyone in this town. Performance-based budgeting, outcome-based budgeting is, there is this old adage that, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. Right? So, as Mayor Rawlings-Blake said, we have to perform and get results every day. It's not like we do trash service on Monday and then we're doing policing services on Tuesday and we're going to give you some water on Wednesday and then, a little recreation on Thursday and, maybe issue a permit on Friday. They all happen at the same time, every day, all day long, 50, 100 different things taking place. And so when I won the Democratic primary back in 2007, I came to Baltimore to see CityStat. The mayor was not the mayor at the time, but I actually met you that day. She was council president. Went to New York, went to Chicago. The great thing about these jobs is that there is, in fact, a lot of on-the-job training. There's no school that you can go to learn how to be mayor. We learn from each other. And so we all borrow, steal each other's ideas. And so we put our folks through a pretty rigorous test on the finance side. Why are we investing in that? Does that program work? What were the actual outcomes? Did it do the thing that we wanted it to do? And so we're implementing and instituting that kind of process for our entire city budget and our capital budget, and also looking for what's the return on investment and the payback period. Governments at times are the only folks who don't do those kinds of things that a business would. Well, we're actually running very large businesses. These are multi-billion-dollar businesses that we are running as a chief executive officer with thousands and thousands of employees and thousands and even more, hundreds of thousands of stakeholders, shareholders. And so it is a process that finance uses, but not just finance. Every manager has to understand in the government that this is the service, this is what we perform, and then what is the outcome. So I agree with the mayor. Picking up that trash, 20 minutes earlier or filling a pothole 6 hours better than you did before. The constituent just wants to know, did you do it? Now, if it's leading to cost savings, if it's leading to more efficiency, if we're buying less fuel because, we're getting to something quicker than we did before, that's a real outcome, in addition to the fact that you still have to fill a pothole.
The mayor of San Jose, California, where I'm from, Chuck Reed, has used results-based budgeting, and he found when he came into office that some of the outcomes weren't justifying the money he was paying in pensions. They just said, and he's been fighting. And this is an intra-party Democratic Party conversation. Chuck's a Democrat. The unions supported him the first time he ran. What do you do? What's the tension there when you do outcome-based budgeting and you realize that you've got a conflict with the core Democratic Party constituency, one that supported you personally?
Look, I don't necessarily know that money knows a party. You can't govern if you don't have any money. And that's a conversation that we honestly have to have. And the mayor is, secretary of the Democratic Party. I'm a DNC member. If you're looking for popularity and love each and every day, this is the wrong business for that. And sometimes the toughest parts of this job is you actually have to tell your friends no. I served in city council for 14 and a half years. I know a lot of the members. I came in with a few. Those have been some of the toughest conversations I've ever had to have because, and the mayor came from city council as well, they're thinking, hey, my friend is up in the mayor's office. This is like Shangri-La,
It's a party.
Time to party and spend. Well, then there was this little thing called a recession. No, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. So if you can't say no to your friends, you're going to be you're not going to have a good time in this job.
I would agree. I've been committed to putting Baltimore on a strong financial path, a fiscal path for the future. I asked financial experts to come in to take a look at the city's budget and economic forecasts and give us a projection of where we'd be in the future. And we determined through that evaluation that we had a $750 million structural deficit. Now, I was on the council since '95. Every year, we had the same conversation. It led with, we have a structural deficit. It was never followed with any solutions to that structural deficit. It led to a reaction to it, which was, okay, we're going to cut here, we're going to trim here, we're going to do this, we're going to, like little patches, year after year. And I was very committed when I became mayor to do things differently. We have paid the price for too long of people kicking the can down the road. And I didn't want any parts of that. And part of it for me was being a mom. You know, I have a daughter who's 10 years old and soon to be 11, very, very soon.
Soon to be 23.
Yeah.
I know your daughter.
And I started to think about it, you know, and I had this conversation with myself because I would get ticked off. Another problem would be laid in my lap. And I said, daggone it, you know, if we would have done things differently, I wouldn't have this problem. And I was like, you know, all these things that are happening, you know, aren't my fault. And then it hit me. I was like, if it's not my fault, it's certainly not hers and her generation. So if I don't fix it, who will? So in order to fix it, I had to have some very tough conversations with people I care a lot about. Mm-hmm. You know, when you are in this, if you are in public service for a long time, these people are not just your colleagues, they become your friends. But you have to have those tough conversations. And I'll never forget really having to have those tough conversations with some of the organized labor around the pension reform that we've done. Baltimore City's done the most comprehensive pension reform out of any city in the country, and it was not easy. And they called me all kinds of names, put out billboards. It was all nasty. It was horrible. And then one of the union leaders, he said, you know what? You're just like a Tea Party. You're turning into a Republican. You know, you better remember who you are. You're a Democrat, and you're just. He said you're just playing out of the Tea Party handbook. What page you on now? You know, it was like really. It was like horrible. And I said, look, we did a diagnosis of the city. We got we did an exam of the city. And we got a diagnosis. And once I got the diagnosis, I plan on fixing it, right? Now, we can fix it together. If you have another playbook that you'd like me to use, give it to me. But I'm not, not fixing it is not an option. I'm going to get us back on the path for growth. We can do it together in partnership, or we're going to be fighting every step of the way. But not doing it is not an option.
And I think you're seeing that more and more across the country. I mean, mayors are stepping up. They're providing leadership. They're taking on these great challenges. And pension reform is one of the greatest challenges facing the United States of America, and certainly at the local level, the city level, and county governments. Many of us are suffering. Many of the plans that are in place and have been in place for a long period of time and have made all of our friends very, very happy are literally not sustainable. 8 years ago, we were putting $200 million of general fund money into our pension fund. This year, it's $600 million and growing, with no particular end in sight. And so we had to have the same. Every contract negotiation at the forefront was pension reform. Either new employees go into a different plan, current employees pay a little more.
Did you get called a Tea Party or two?
I got called a lot of stuff.
He got called worse than that.
Yeah. It's a family-oriented program.
Mr. Mayor,
Leave it
Mr.
at
Mayor, that reminds me, because Philadelphia is, I'm wearing my Philly tie, by the way.
Yeah, no, I see, yes.
Declaration of
I will
Independence.
remind you
Yes.
that we just had the 200th anniversary of our national anthem, so as if you were, in the mood to be patriotic, you could have worn a Baltimore tie.
I actually had one with the American flag and baseball on it.
See? then it would have been all Baltimore.
I should have done that.
I mean,
Not that this is a competition.
I mean, it's appropriate. I mean,
There's
we
no
are the birthplace
competition
of
in
freedom,
baseball
liberty,
this
and
year.
democracy in the United States of America.
And I should respect that. You are correct.
Have great events. We're actually trying to hold a convention in Philadelphia
I would
because the first really great convention was in Philadelphia.
Mr. Mayor, all right, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to put you on the spot then.
Yeah, there we go.
You started Philly 311.
Yes.
Let me ask you, do I understand this right? Before you did that, Philadelphians had to be politically connected to get a pothole fixed?
I wouldn't put it that way, but it certainly helped to know somebody. So, you know, as many cities, and I don't know this about Baltimore, but, you know, there were like 1 million phone numbers. And yes, if you did call somebody in a certain department, or if you got what's often referred to as a little bit of a Philly hookup, you know, your service more than likely would get done faster than someone else's. Again, this was the visit to Baltimore, to New York, and to Chicago. And I'll never forget, New York had maybe put theirs in about a year or two before that, maybe 05, 06, or somewhere in that realm. And Mayor Bloomberg was promoting it, and he was calling in, and he was using it. And I had a meeting that summer, and the young person who was running the program said, the mayor's goal is to make this New York City 311 so invaluable that no one will ever be able to take it away. And, you know, Philadelphia, I mean, known as a city that loves change and embraces change and is enthusiastic every day about change. When we did this, service is never going to happen, people aren't going to get their girls responded to, et cetera, and nothing could be farther from the truth. We did it in 1 year, modeled it after a couple different cities. You call one number, that's the only number you need to remember. They track the calls. We can tell you how many people called today, what they called about, how long were you on hold. Again, measuring the service, and yes, the pothole did get filled. The street does ultimately get paved. The tree does get trimmed. And you don't have to know anybody. And so that's what I was trying to, I mean, we had some serious integrity issues in the government. You should not have to know anyone to get service from the city government. You're a citizen, you pay your taxes, you should get service like everybody else, regardless of who you know, did you contribute, did you not contribute, party, affiliation, or anything else. You're a citizen, you deserve service.
I want to ask you both about crime. In Philadelphia, the number of homicides dropped. If I understand this right, I was looking at the FBI uniform crime stats to numbers not seen in half a century.
1967.
Right. So what are some of the positive effects, the ripple effects of lower violence and improved public safety for the rest of what you're trying to do?
Sure.
I mean, it's its own benefit not having people
absolutely,
hurt.
yes.
But what are the other?
Kind of against crime in Philadelphia. But you can't have a great city if people don't feel safe. I mean, it's a fundamental aspect of, and you know, you want people to come to your city, and more than half of the people in the world live in cities, and you know, cities are coming back, and again, I think it's because of leadership that's being provided at the ground level. But it's also about, you know, how comfortable do people feel about their kids being outside playing, or folks going to work, or you know, going about their daily lives, and you build on that foundation. So I've been very focused on that particular issue. Homicides were going up in 03, 04, 05, while most of the country was going in the other direction. And fortunately, with great leadership, Police Commissioner Ramsey and the team, but also community service organizations and dealing with returning citizens, folks coming, you know, back from prison and trying to make sure that they have employment opportunities. You have to build it at the grassroots level, and we've had some significant reductions, but I mean, there were 247 homicides last year, and again, those are the lowest numbers since 1967, but every life is precious in our city, and you know, we've made progress, but we still have a lot more to do. But it really does set the stage for a variety of other things. People want to invest. Folks want to build buildings. They want to create jobs and economic vitality. So focusing in on public safety has been a particular issue for us.
Now you're nodding your head, so yeah.
You know, we've also seen reduction in homicide. We were able to get it down to the lowest number since the 70s. In 2011 was the lowest I was able to get it so far into my tenure. And there was a lot of pride because we'd seen progress. The challenge, and I think the challenge that is relevant to a lot of the conversation that's been happening across the country recently, is the year that we had the lowest number of homicide, we also had a uncomfortably high number of police brutality complaints, police discourtesy complaints, and overall misconduct, which forced me to have a hard look at myself to say, at what cost are we doing this work? And also have a conversation about the sustainability of the crime suppression. Because if we're not doing it in partnership with the community, it's not going to be sustainable.
Well, I wanted to ask you specifically about Baltimore had sort of tried in the last 20 years sort of both great theories, proactive policing and community policing. And they're not mutually exclusive, but departments don't seem to be able to do them at the same time. Or is this something you have tried to inculcate?
I believe very strongly in doing strategic work, being proactive, being smart about policing. I also believe that if we are going to have dramatic change, and again, I think any city in the country can get make incremental progress. That's not something I'm interested in. I want Baltimore to be dramatically safer, and I want to put in place the foundation for it to stay that way. We have to be in relationship with the community, and in Baltimore, we had a lot of repair work to do. It was not easy. We've had to, I've gone around several times to each police district, having conversation.
You yourself?
Yeah, with the police commissioner. Each police district having a public safety town hall. You know, they weren't always pretty, but listening to the community. And the question I ask is, how can we work better together to create a safer Baltimore? And you know, part of the work that we're doing after this last round of public safety forums is answering those questions. You know, it's one thing to listen, but in my opinion, if you really hear and respect what they're saying, you've got to change the way you're doing things. And the issue of police brutality continued to come up, and I know that we have to do more in that area. And it's something that, you know, with Ferguson and the other cities around the country, we have to do more as government officials.
Let me ask you one more question to both of you. I'd like you both answer it, and then we'll open it to questions, right? Moneyball government. You know, that's the Results for America. They're promoting that, and it sounds good. It's the metaphor, of course. You're both sports fans, so you know. In case you don't know, anybody out there, it's based on Billy Beane, the general manager of the small market Oakland Athletics, and he used sabermetrics and other advanced metrics to try and get more bang for his buck, the way mayors have to do. Get outfielders who got 80 walks but only hit 260 instead of big famous sluggers who wanted a lot more money. Worked for a while, worked for a good long while, but this summer, and I know you follow this because the Orioles are just dominant.
AL East champions.
Yeah, the Oakland A's, Billy Beane pulled off a Moneyball trade. He traded his cleanup hitter for the best pitcher on the Red Sox, and the team, they had the best record in baseball when he did it, and they went into an immediate tailspin, and they're going to be lucky to make the playoffs. So let's talk about this metaphor. Is there a cautionary tale there for reformers?
Well, I don't know. Whatever we're doing in Baltimore with the O's, it's working. So I'll just take it.
I don't mean
there. But you know, there is always a cautionary tale. You have to be willing to be innovative, to get more for less. The trick is to get it right when you do that, because if you make the wrong decisions to try to get to squeeze your budget and it doesn't work out, then you'll
end up with Johnny Gomes in Westfield instead of Cespedes.
Right.
Or the equivalent thereof in your school district.
But I think that, but the challenge, what I think is you have to be willing to be wrong, call it wrong, and keep moving, right? Because we're never going to get it right all the time. But if you wait around and you don't call it what it is, and so you could fix it and move on, that's where you wind up in the tailspin. I believe in trying. Making a hard call, trying to making that call because we're pushing for progress, and if it doesn't work out, you cut, moving it.
Mayor, the hubris of reform.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be willing. You have to be take an appropriate level of risk. You have to be innovative. You have to take chances, and as the mayor said, and just not always going to get it right. I mean, if we're talking baseball, I mean, there is no one right now who's a regular day player. There's no one hitting 800.
Nobody even hitting
Right?
400.
I mean, some are not batting their weight, right? So, and they make a lot of money. The point is that we take chances. Sometimes we get it right, and you move on, and you add on to it, and those are the things that you invest in. And as the mayor said, and if you make a mistake, own it, own up to it, move on. There's no perfection here. We're not in heaven yet. So releasing data. So we have an open data policy. I signed an executive order, 80 different data sets for all kinds of stuff that I don't even know what people are doing with all this data and information, but it's out there for you. We measure what we do and how we do it. So we're talking about public safety. I mean, we can tell you literally down to the street corner, to the intersection, where we should have our police officers. So I live in the 19th Police District in Philadelphia. It has a level of violence in it. But fortunately for me, not in the particular area where I am. So we don't need as many officers in that part of the district because they should be over here where that activity is taking place. We're engaged in a social innovation fund, trying to use evidence-based programs. I mean, the days of dollars flowing in an unending fashion into cities, to some extent, is really over. And so, how do we make sure that people are getting the right job training programs? And again, the ones that work, not the ones that, well, they're getting funding because they've always gotten funding and that's who's getting it. And so, again, we had to bring a whole host of neighborhood-based nonprofits and folks who've been, just kind of doing what they're doing and had some really hard conversations. Your stuff is not working. I'm not funding you anymore. But, hey, I'm sorry. And I know we've known each other for 20 years. That's the way it goes.
All right, I don't mean to cut you off, but let's I'm getting signals.
Yeah.
Let's open it up to
happens to us all the
questions
time.
here. Shelby has the mic. Okay, 1 second. All right, here, then there. All right.
Art Gazettian with the American Public Transportation Association. The contrast can be made that cities are figuring things out, they're becoming healthy, people are living there, they're growing. On the other hand, Washington, dysfunctional. Thus, since cities are figuring it out, can you look to them figure out, the money questions? Say, my issue is transportation, which has traditionally been a federal, state, local partnership. Right. Since you're the ones figuring it out and Washington isn't, does that mean that the burden there becomes a burden shift to cities? How do you respond to that?
I mean, some of the burden is being shifted. I mean, I think one of the big differences is we don't have printing presses in the basement. I mean, the money is still here. South Street Bridge in Philadelphia, fantastic project, $64 million, 80% paid for by the federal government, 15% by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, 5% by the city. There's no way in the world that I could have put $64 million into a bridge desperately needed to be rehabilitated, chunks of concrete falling into the Schuylkill River. Those are the kinds of things that the feds are tailor-made for. And this is where the money is. They just can't figure out what to do, how to spend it, where to send it for these kinds of projects. So I'm not about to let the federal government and the dysfunctional Congress off the hook just because they can't seem to get their acts together. And so things do have a tendency to kind of roll down. A lot of stuff ends up at our doorsteps that I can't do a whole lot about. On the other hand, I'm not, I don't come just with criticism. I have basically a brand new, front door at Philadelphia City Hall. We got a $15 million Tiger grant that helped us with a $50 million transportation project and to redo the now Dilworth Park. So the feds appropriately focused, and when they actually momentarily have their act together, can have a tremendous impact. We had HUD Secretary Castro here. Philadelphia, we got a Promise Zone designation. We got a Choice Neighborhood Grant, $30 million, the largest grant the city has received in possibly decades. It's going to leverage $125 million additional that we're going to pour into one place in North Philadelphia and completely change the entire landscape there. So, I mean, the federal government has a role to play, needs to play its appropriate role. Let us do our jobs, hold us accountable. We cover every possible. If I can't find 15 cents, I can assure you that's going to be on the front page of the Inquirer back home. We managed millions of dollars between us through Economic Recovery Act funding in 9 and 10 and 11. Did anyone hear of any scandal with that program? No.
Hello, Courtney Chung from U.S. Department of Labor. I have two quick questions. Number one, you mentioned about the performance-based approach. So how do you, first of all, like, how often do you get to review those performance-based reports from many different departments? Number two is, how do you make sure that frontline staff, all the way in the frontline staff, gets things done? How do you communicate with them? So,
I'll start. As far as performance-based or outcome-based budgeting, how do you measure for those that you're actually making those outcomes? That's something that we are working on with Outcome Stat. We're the model, the turning the curve model, that we're trying to not just budget for priorities, but see how how are we moving the needle on the things that we care about, our priority goals. So that is something that we're working on, because I think it's important not just to have the goals, but to see how you are progressing. And how do you make sure the front line knows? You have to be able to have a succinct message, and you have to depend on the people that are running your department, that, not just what we're doing, but why. And it is the constant conversation and, measuring it. Do we always know that the frontline people understand what and why? We might not have a sense of what they know, but the clear sense of what they're doing. And if that helps us, push it, move, and get things done better, quicker, and more efficiently, sometimes you settle for that.
I would add on to that, it's constant communication. I mean, and I know the mayor does this on her website on a pretty regular basis, and I see some other communications of hers. It's constant communication with the workforce and the troops. Obviously, in the first instance, right through the managers, commissioner of a department or agency, down through the deputy commissioners, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I've talked to every sanitation worker in the city about their routes or whatever. I mean, I'm going to leave that to their supervisors and forepersons and that kind of stuff. But we articulate what our goals are in a variety of ways. And City Representative, Director of Communications is here. And so we use a variety of different media outlets. And so I think that is not only about communicating with the public, but our public employees are citizens as well. I mean, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're paying attention to what's going on. Our Philly Stat sessions are televised, some live, some taped, and then are rebroadcast on our PEG channel, our government access channel in Philadelphia. And so people, from time to time, amazing to me that folks are sitting at home watching this stuff, But, I mean, I think it's exciting and interesting, but, this is what I do for a living. But, I mean, people tell me about sessions that they have seen. And so people actually are interested in what the government is doing. I mean, at the end of the day, we always have to remind ourselves, we work for them.
I need to jump in here. We have one more panel. One more question? Where are we? She has no question.
Take it.
Okay.
Take it. Take
All right, good. We have one more. Let's.
Hi, I'm Chris Tassoni. I'm with the Maya Angelou Schools here in D.C. I'm curious, to some extent, evidence and innovation are actually a bit opposed, right? Evidence can tell you what programs that people have already tried, whether a pilot worked, whether a large-scale program is a failure. How do you work politically to create space for true innovation where you're going to spend public resources on something that will actually fail, and you learn a lesson from that?
I think part of it is being upfront and honest about it. So, again, we took an idea from then Mayor Menino, the New Urban Mechanics. When we announced it, we said this is a place. I mean, it was like two people in an office. They have full authority to innovate and fail. And quite frankly, if you don't fail, that means you're not trying hard enough. You're not putting enough things out there. But that's their space in which to try those things. So, I mean, it's not like we're, rolling out a new sanitation service untried citywide and have it, collapse, and people wonder, what in the hell are you doing? And then there's always the pilot program where you test something to see whether or not it's going to work. We do a lot of research through that office, or Maya Giacomowicz is here, through the policy office. So, I mean, I don't think any of us are just you know, running. I mean, it's like they say, never buy the first car, you know, of the new model year right off the assembly line. It might not have everything fully, you know, kind of connected, but, you know, you have to innovate. You have to be willing to take chances. And again, being upfront and honest with the public. I mean, I didn't exactly know what was totally going to happen with 311. I didn't exactly know what was going to happen when we tried to, you know, increase our recycling rates with a new contract with a Philly-based company, but they tripled over time because we communicated to people, what is this about? It's not just we're, you know, tree huggers and wearing Birkenstocks and all. No, it's about getting the recycling materials. At the time, someone was willing to pay us for it. We made money. We stopped sending a lot of stuff to landfills. That saved us money. And people had to sort that stuff, and it created jobs. So, I mean, innovation comes in a variety of ways, and I think, you know, you just have to be out there and tell people what you're doing.
Madam Mayor, anything to add to that?
I would say, much like Philly, we set money aside for it. We have an innovation fund. Some of the projects have worked, some of them haven't. But if you set aside money, and we've made it clear to the team that you know, this is, you can apply for this money just like we do for any other outcome-based budget, and that's the money that we're setting aside to innovate. And just like what Mayor Nutter said, sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong, but at least we know that if you want to try something new, there's an opportunity for you to do it within the construct of the budget.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up with one question of each of you, not about your city, but about yourself. As I told Julian Castro, we are RealClearPolitics, so all this policy is fascinating, but I need to ask one political question. Madam Mayor, your name was in the news this week as being mentioned as one possibility to chair the Democratic National Committee someday. So I need to ask you this question before that happens so you can answer it. The Democratic Party presidential field for 2016 is forming, such as it is. And I guess my question bluntly is, do the demands of local politics mean that you would have to support Martin O'Malley over Hillary Clinton?
I think that...
Wow.
I think if you know, you asked Secretary Castro if
I think you have a great tie on.
He does.
A great tie.
You asked Secretary Castro if Secretary Trump's congressman. I will say that DNC Secretary Trump's mayor, and as secretary, I am prohibited from engaging in.
So I didn't get you soon enough on this one.
You absolutely did not. And just for the record, I love my job as mayor, and I'm very much looking forward to assuming a position soon that was once held by Mayor Nutter, and that's president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Yep. Between that, thank you. Between all of those responsibilities, my plate is very full. On top of that, I think the chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's someone I admire. She's done a tremendous job making sure that that the Republicans didn't roll back the clock on women's rights, that she continues to fight and make sure that the fight for the middle class is on the agenda. I think she's doing a great job, and for me, it has been a pleasure to work with her. So I don't know how I got into the article, but I am very happy with what I'm doing.
Mayor Nutter?
Yes. I know you're going to give me whatever.
It's not a tough one.
Whatever crazy question it's going to be, but the mayor is, as usual, overly modest. There's one other aspect to her soon-to-be presidency, which will happen in June of next year. Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake will become the first African-American woman president of the United States Conference of Mayors next June.
All right, and for my last question, then we have another panel coming up.
You have to stick him with a political question.
You know what? I'm going to go easy on him. Mr. Mayor, you have, by my calculations, a year and a half left in office.
A little less, about 14 months.
All right, my question for you is simply, what are you going to do then? Because we could really use you here in Washington.
Yeah.
What are your plans, sir?
I don't have any plans. My plan is to fight for full and fair funding and get a student-weighted funding formula for educating our kids in Philadelphia. My plan is to sell the Philadelphia Gas Works and invest hundreds of millions of dollars in our severely underfunded pension plan. My plan is to continue to focus on reducing crime, in Philadelphia and continue to upgrade the quality of life in our city and make Philadelphia truly the great innovation city that we want it to be. That's my focus. That is my only plan.
Don't sound like you're leaving
about.
town.
I'm sorry?
You don't sound like you're leaving.
I'm not going anywhere.
All right, well, and with that, I would thank you. We have one more panel coming up, and